Charles, this is another movie that I'm not actually familiar with, but given the ongoing Hunter Biden trial, I figured crack in the world was an appropriate theme for today's show. How are you today, Charles?
I'm great. Well, evidently the art department was familiar with it. Maybe we could ask the art department how they came up with it.
Because I was just looking for movies about crack. I mean, just the fact that we've got Hunter Biden there on trial and Norm Eisen is busily talking about how he's gonna get off. And we've already seen, by the way, the jury's seen a lot of evidence of Hunter Biden getting off. But the point is, we've already had shenanigans in that trial. There was an ex-Secret Service person who was on the jury. They've dismissed jury members. They've got alternate jury members. Anything that they say, oh, trial by jury is the highest standard, totally impervious to manipulation.
Yeah.
I don't trust that because that's what they're going to go to right away.
Right, and this mob boss approach of having, Jill, the stupid, and various Biden family members sit in the front seat, front row, along with some black activist in a wheelchair. You shouldn't be doing that. If you're the mafia, I get it. But if you're the first family, you shouldn't be behaving like mafia kingpins. And now, to me, the most egregious thing that happened was the prosecution entered the laptop as evidence.
Yeah.
And none of these fucking, excuse my language, Pulitzer Prize winning douchebags who spent years saying it was Russian disinformation, none of those people are saying, now wait a minute, either we're wrong or they're wrong, but something is off here. Nobody's doing that yet.
Well, let's focus on this, Charles, because this is extremely important because it involves not just the 51 signers to the now famous letter,
right,
12 of which are, at the time of the signing, Brookings Institution fellows. This also directly involves Adam Sharp, because remember, he's going on CNBC while Jack Dorsey is lying to the Senate, and he's trying to convince everybody that Twitter needs the ability to censor disinformation because Russian influence and blah, blah, blah. So these guys lied deliberately. They knew they were lying. Adam Sharp is also indirectly involved with the Aspen Institute digital desktop exercise where they anticipated a Burisma associated incident with a hack and dump pertaining to Hunter Biden. And my point is, if they're going to say that an accountant working for Donald Trump, we should revisit this, Charles, because the notion that a billionaire, because he signed a particular check, is automatically aware of every single entry made in a ledger by an accountant in a multi-billion-dollar organization is so inherently absurd on its face versus 51 individuals who signed, and Blinken and people like Sharp who knew about this.
Well, Blinken instigated
it. Vivian Schiller is the executive director of Aspen Digital, and she oversaw this desktop exercise that 2 weeks or perhaps more prior to the New York Post even releasing their article, Schiller puts out this thing that is just psychically prescient in its prediction of exactly what would happen. It cannot be denied that these people knew and actively changed the facts to affect the election. Donald Trump didn't even know that Michael Cohen and Weisselberg had done this stuff.
Right. Well, the other thing, I think, going back to the question of the reaction, the orchestrated reaction in corporate-owned media and social media, poo-pooing it, you have experience, I have experience dealing with the organized media and less with the social media, but in organized media, opinion pieces are curated by editors. And Turley had an interesting piece yesterday, I think, talking about how when he wrote for the Washington Post, there was a time when they really valued independent opinions. So they would put the many liberal opinions, and they put his opinion. And he is technically a liberal, but more conservative. And he bemoaned the fact that now what they do is they slow walk. They solicit an op-ed from a guy like Turley, or Tom Cotton and others who are conservative, and then they don't print it, or they change it, or they whatever. Whereas they just let something like the laptop is disinformation, evisceration happen, and that's coordinated across multiple editorial boards, multiple producers.
Media networks, NGOs.
Yeah, but producers who decide what stories to push and what to kill. And there is abundant email evidence of that somebody probably already has in the FBI, and they're happy with that. You know, they're totally happy selling falsehood as truth and fiction as fact. And there's no need for a disinformation body to regulate the general public. There certainly seems to be a need for
from their side.
Yeah, for such a body. There need to be strict penalties. When people in authority stand up, former CIA directors, I'm thinking of Leon Panetta, who is another douchebag, getting up there and, you know, at a pivotal moment, saying this is Russian disinformation, when it certainly wasn't. And now Biden's Justice Department now the ship has sailed. They can't say it was fiction, but they shouldn't be able to get away just with saying now it's fact, and damn what happened prior to the election. We have to go back to that period and hold people accountable who lied. The people with government pensions, government jobs, high security clearances, those people knew that what they were saying was false, but they put together that narrative to try to sweep Biden into office, which happened. And now look what we have. We have a certified moron, a dangerous certified moron, instigating World War III.
Very close to that now, with Western weapons striking within Russia. Putin's already said it's an escalation, unacceptable.
Well, they had a story in Zero Hedge I sent this morning around to folks that we have a plan now. We're banding about this plan to send 300,000 troops.
Yeah, McGregor commented on that.
You know, and you know, we can quickly do that. No, we can't. We can't move 300,000 of any kind of person quickly. And you know, where was the vote in 2020? Where was the debate about, you know, let's start World War III for the hell of it?
Right.
Then you have I'm sorry to say it this way, but I'm not going to stop. We have this person who looks like an idiot, a supposed woman who looks like a man from Germany, of all places, saying it's time to call up 800,000 German reservists. You know, that's always a great idea. Every time Germany's gotten militant.
This is not 1940. Russia's just going to nuke immediately. They're not going to wait around. They've been at this for 2 years already.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, where are the pacifists? Right, the same people who are bemoaning what Netanyahu is doing in Israel, we can get to that, are saying nothing, bupkis, about what Biden and Lindsey Graham and other meatheads are doing, rushing us into a war Europe is not going to win.
By the way, Joe Biden is in, I think, France, getting ready to commemorate D-Day.
No, he's not in France for that.
What's he there for?
He's commemorating Douchebag Day.
Right, that's what the D stands for in his case.
Yeah.
But the point is, you know, he's going to be like, oh, World War II, and we got to do this and that. But it's like, look, it's not going to go that way. It's not the same situation. It's not the same time. And we are in the wrong.
Right, very much so.
And we just keep pushing this.
The other thing is, yeah, our greatest generation did sacrifice enormously to help win World War II, but Russia had 20 million casualties. Russia had more casualties in modern St. Petersburg, then called Leningrad, than we had in World War II, just in one city.
And they haven't forgotten it, and I don't think that their population has been lied to about it in the way that we have.
Right.
And that's the thing, we have this culture of just, I've said it many times, stipulated reality. And let's just go back to the Hunter Biden, to Joe Biden. Because,
do we have to?
Well, separately, there was the whole congressional yelling session at Merrick Garland, where they were asking about this, Robert Hur interview and the tape, and it's, I guess, been acknowledged that there were edits made. They talk about pauses and ums, which is objectionable in and of itself, but I have a feeling that that means there's actual words that were changed where, you change yes to no.
Well, or if you say 20 times.
That's right. So the point is, this is really, for people who maybe haven't clearly understood what I'm saying when I talk about stipulating reality, the actual reality is what Joe Biden said. The content of that tape is important because if his demeanor is, he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about when he's being questioned about crimes, how is that just a pass to, you know, why couldn't Trump do that? Oh, I didn't know what they were entering in the thing, and I'm too incompetent to sit in jail.
Well, and
Joe Biden gets that, and that is the stipulated reality. What he actually said and is recorded on tape or digital, whatever, that's real reality. What's written in the record is the stipulated reality, and I want people to be prepared that they're going to look us directly in the eye and say, forget about reality, this is the record.
Right. Well, the other thing I would say is that in the case of Trump, he gave many, many interviews, and not like, you know, questions are limited,
right,
the time is limited. He would stand up, you know, for what we're doing now, it's not that hot.
It's humid.
But it's a little humid. But Trump, the thing that was to me a tour de force was the Singapore press conference when the Kim Jong-un meeting fell apart and he had to stand up and explain what had happened. And he did so for almost 2 hours.
Right.
In intense heat, late at night.
After eating a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken.
The real president right here. This is who we need. This is your
Who's
guy.
that? Who's that?
It's Eli
Eli
Manning.
Oh, okay. There
With
you
the
go.
Giants hat, I thought I'd give you Eli Manning.
No, it's okay.
Come on.
Thanks.
Counterfeit
Thanks.
money.
That's the real guy right there.
There you go.
President.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
See, that Giants hat is
Right. And
more
it gets
trouble
a lot
than you
of. I
expected,
get a lot
Charles.
of. Should maybe get it.
What the fuck is this?
Let's get away from it. It's this here. Let's get away, Jason.
Yeah.
That's right. But you know, so Trump has given, and even now gives many press availabilities, press interactions, where he really gets into issues. He likes tough questions. Biden does not answer. I mean, that performance the day after or the day of the verdict or whatever.
Smiling.
It was ridiculous.
Of course.
It was the kind of thing you'd fail out of like a 7th grade drama school. You
Debate
fail
class,
on
yeah.
the spot.
Yeah. No, he's a failure. He's an utter failure.
He was as convincing as John Lovitz.
He's the
pathological
definition of
liar.
incompetence. Literally.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, basically Merrick Garland I think people are getting pretty frustrated with Congress because they basically just sit there and yell at them. And I mean, the thing is, there's a lot of vitriol being flung at the individuals, James Comer, Jim Jordan. I don't know what it is that they could do beyond what they're doing. I agree, I want more results, but the whole way it's set up, they're a little bit toothless.
The whole thing, the only way this gets settled is with a mandate in the election. That's only a person date where either Joe Biden and his team of crooks gets reelected and the country just goes bankrupt, or Trump and his team. And he's got to put together a real team. It can't be Mike Pence and, you know,
Right.
Jefferson Sessions and Bill Barr and all these captured assholes. It's got to be people who are signed on to a program to actually right the wrongs. It's not about revenge. It's about eradicating pervasive crime and corruption. That's got to happen. If it doesn't happen, we may not have a choice as a country in going bankrupt because the bond vigilantes are looking at this and sharpening their knives.
Bond vigilantes?
So in credit markets, if you don't have a Federal Reserve intervening against you, if it's powerless to intervene against you, and a company like GE gets to a point where its financial situation is obviously horrible, despite the fact that all the captured cronies of GE are touting it, bond vigilantes come in, they short the debt, and they execute
They're
other trade,
taking the straightening out into their own hands.
and the market.
So the market fixes itself, basically.
Unless
is what you're
the
saying.
market is concerned that central banks have the ability to say, notwithstanding the problems of the U.S. dollar and debt, we're going to keep buying it because
Aha.
we can.
So that
and-
thing doesn't play by regular rules. It has a super
To
user
a point.
capability.
To a point. And we're past that point now.
It's like a joker. It's like a wild card in a poker
To a
game.
point. To a point. You know, it's like the analogy I think would be if people could borrow to play poker, and other people were just using cash, and you start out and the amount of debt versus the pool is zero.
But it's almost like they can borrow without having to
Let me
pay
finish.
it back.
Yeah, let me finish. You started out with there are people like you who go up, but you don't borrow to play poker. Well, let's
Right.
say there were people who would do that, and the amount of debt against the chips is 100 times the chip value, or some number. At that point, people say, wait a minute, this game has to end.
Right.
That's
It's
where
not
we
gonna
are
be able
now.
to pay it back.
That's where we are.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, so it's a wild card because any serious poker player, that's like a little kid's game.
Right.
You don't want a wild card because now, how do you calculate what the hand is going to be? Everything goes out the window. And that's basically what these guys are doing, if I understand what you were explaining.
Kingdom of crack is what that should be. That's what we are, a kingdom of crack. All the crack that's fit to smoke
So speaking of crack,
is whack.
he's whack. He basically now, his stepmother is there looking at all these pictures of him smoking crack with guns and hookers. I mean, this is the most disgraceful.
I mean, any honorable family that found a family member get into this kind of position, and there are multiple family members, it's
Get
not
out
just
of
Hunter.
public life.
Exactly. You just say, look, we've done enough, but we can't put Hunter's children through this, you know, and the Biden grandchildren, if they're great-grandchildren,
Right.
young, you can't put them through this. So, Joe, you've done enough, and, you know, you're going to stand down. That's an honorable, I know.
We haven't seen that in a long time.
Yeah.
Army
Well,
walking around armed.
Well, they're getting ready, July 4th.
But we cannot be mixing and matching the Army and the police. This is martial law.
No, it's Banana Republic.
Yeah, I mean, that guy, the police aren't properly trained to interface with the public. And that guy, they don't even pretend to train them to do that stuff. This is a good view of the Paramount Theater, Charles. Got rodents.
The White House.
There's a good view of the Paramount Theater,
Where's that?
the Hard Rock Cafe. And look, something's happening with Pac-Man.
Delivering something.
It's a Pac-Man store.
Well,
That says it's a Pac-Man store. Tamashi Nation. I don't know. I guess it's a Pac-Man toy. Not that interesting. But anyway, back to this Hunter Biden trial. I mean, it's such an open and shut case. If
There are
he
so
is
many
not
others.
found guilty, yeah, I mean, there's literal videos of him breaking the law. There's no doubt that it's him. His signature on documents. I mean, it's so much different than the Donald Trump case in that if this guy gets off, it's not only that there's no justice, there's no reality in
I
the
believe
United
that was
States.
its problem. He was getting off too much.
Right. But I'm saying if he is not convicted and put in jail, we are beyond no justice and deep into no sanity, no reality, no nothing.
You saw in that area that one of the founders of the Black Panthers endorsed Trump.
I
wonder if that's true.
Right. Why would Trump give the Black Panthers money? They were kind of communists and
In the
hanging out
60s.
with the. Yeah, they were hanging out with the Weather Underground and shooting judges' heads off in San Rafael, or I think it was San Rafael courthouse where they came into the trial and Angela Davis had bought the guns. You remember that?
Yep.
And they blew off a judge's head.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, that's domestic terrorism. Now they've decided if you question the integrity of the obviously corrupt judicial system, you're a terrorist. And if you object to the police using foreign intelligence and military assets against you when you're not breaking the law, then you get kicked off of YouTube. That reminds me, it's very important for people to subscribe on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth. Totally free. And the police don't seem to have the ability to take that down immediately. But also you can become a member on Odyssey and sponsor the show for only $3 a month, plus a 58-cent Odyssey fee. In just about 10 minutes, Charles, we're going to proceed into the First Amendment Forum. I think we're going to have a litany of things that we're going to be not allowed to talk about pretty soon. There's the naked cowboy again over there. That dude is busy, I'll give him that.
But what we can talk about, I think, now is Scott Ritter.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that.
Because, I mean, Scott Ritter, to me, is not a sympathetic character. I'm prepared to believe that he might have been framed, maybe. But this idea he was taken off a plane, that the Ukrainians have him on a hit list,
Yeah.
and that it's possible that our government, through contractors and maybe directly, is not protecting journalists, but indeed placing them in harm's way. Journalists who are prepared to oppose this war, this ill-conceived, in my view, war in Ukraine is outrageous, particularly when you consider that many of the hard left who were in power in Congress were anti-Vietnam people.
Right.
You know, it had a prominent person like Scott Ritter been taken off a plane, and John Kerry was celebrated for attending in uniform Paris peace talks and arguing against the official policies of the United States government. He then went on to become a senator and secretary of state. How can he support this?
It's a very weird thing. Actually, you just missed an ad from Samsung. They're using AI to detect what you put in your refrigerator. Showed somebody put in broccoli and the refrigerator knew it was broccoli. We should test out that giant hot dog. I don't know if you got a chance to see the Scott Ritter interview on Judge Napolitano's podcast. Well, it was interesting in that he said first of all, they didn't arrest him. So what did he do that allowed, there was some other...
They seized his passport.
Yeah, Kim Iverson did a report on this and said that, he wasn't arrested. She was looking up online other cases, she said, where people had their passports taken away but they weren't arrested. And she said the only thing that she could find that made it make sense, in her estimation, was that if they had evidence that the passport had been stolen and that the person might be using a fake travel document. I don't understand how that doesn't get you arrested. I don't understand how there's any offense that gets the penalty of the passport taken that doesn't include being arrested and having paperwork issued to you and all of that. And I don't know Scott Ritter. I don't know what could be going on. I don't know if those people were actually who they claim to be, or undercover FBI or undercover NYPD. We know they've got the ability to do all kinds of things that when you read the letter of what they're telling you they're doing are just boldly unconstitutional, boldly illegal. So I would not presume that this was some legitimate occurrence.
Careful. Yeah.
And we just really have no idea what happened until there's more information.
Right now, it's possible Ritter was in jail, so it's possible that he may have violated a term of his release.
Why
It's
wouldn't
possible.
they arrest him for that, though?
I don't know.
And also, I thought there's a sanction on Russia making it illegal to even go there. That's
There's
why.
not. Tucker went.
Well, I mean, again, he's somebody that it might not be convenient for them to prosecute.
Johnson's there. Mary Johnson is there right now.
I mean, again, just because people are doing something doesn't mean it's not sanctioned or illegal. I'm quite confident that if I tried to go there, they'd do the Scott Ritter treatment or worse.
I think if you go to New Jersey, they'll do that.
Exactly. So I'm just saying, it's, all these things that Kim Iverson was anticipating, I would say, at the very least, I would anticipate a national security letter or some similar action enabled by laws that we maybe aren't that familiar with under the Patriot Act, or maybe secret FISA laws where they just say, he's going to Russia, he's interfacing with foreign people that we're already investigating, so on the basis of a national security threat, take this guy's passport.
Yeah, and I wonder, we know that NATO military advisors, including possibly Americans, are assisting Ukraine with targeting bombing sites and other perhaps executions inside Russia. I wonder how dangerous it is, frankly, to go over there and find that a persistent critic of the Biden administration of Obama, namely you or me, you or I, would inconveniently for us find ourselves underneath the bomb.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. They would just say, whatever, that's the thing. There's just too many, it opens up too many opportunities for evil people who obviously have international networks to do whatever they want. And when it happens outside of the United States, they could say, well, these guys were interfacing with Sputnik or RT or whatever Russian person, and so they're Russian operatives. We know they already tried that with you, with these emails with Peter Smith. They wanted to make some sort of tangible connection to you by passing off these emails that luckily you never took. And by the way, they're so persistent in their stupid ideas. Just, we've got June 14th is basically a week away. And they announced that something is happening in the Trump trial, or what is it? I forget what it was that they said was going to happen on June 14th, but some decision in court. But of course, June 14th is Trump's birthday, and it's also the day.
It's Flag Day.
It's Flag Day. It's the day that in 2017 they tried to perpetrate a hoax to entrap me. And George's brother has just entered a filing in a case that is done and closed, where he's obtained this extremely detailed report from either the Coast Guard or the FBI or whoever it's from. It's sort of this, end of action report or whatever. And I mean, it basically says right in there, it details how George was laying all this information on the Coast Guard, laying all this information on me. It mentions Crowdsource the Truth. But just because George calls up the FBI and says he works for Crowdsource the Truth, he never worked for Crowdsource the Truth. I never paid him. We never had an employment agreement. It's just so obvious what these guys are doing, but he's desperately trying to find something that he can put on a page. The FBI has investigated this. They've investigated me. I called them and even asked them, why haven't you investigated me? And they didn't want to talk about it. But he won't let it go in the same way that the idiots in Congress and in the executive branch are insistent on this Russia hack. They need their old shit to stick. So all this talk about go back and fix this, that's the opposite of what they want to do. They want to have such a blizzard of bullshit coming that you can't even go back and start plowing the blizzard from last week because there's so much snow falling right now.
Exactly.
Anyway, with that, Charles, we're going to make our way over to the First Amendment Forum. I hope that people will join us on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com, and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. We'll be right back, everybody. Stay with us. Oh, look, Charles, it's the present of garbage. The presence of garbage.
The omnipresence.
And Back to the Future. We'll be right back to the present